you look at the the entire work, I mean, it's certainly impressive in terms of the guys that they've got so far. The guys they're still recruiting, they've got a great chance to sign, and they currently have the #1 recruiting class in the country according to Rivals.com.
All right, I am curious to get your opinion on the Mac Jones commitment. Kentucky commitment, of course, a great program there at the Bow School in Jacksonville. But I'll be honest with you, Andrew, when they got a commitment from Tua Tagovailoa from Honolulu, I said that's going to be it for the quarterback in the 2017 class. I was surprised they took another quarterback. First of all, I want you to talk about Mac Jones, why Alabama decided it was worthy of taking another quarterback in this class, and if that might have something to do with the fact that they're worried about some of these guys that are on scholarship now coming back in 2017. So it's kind of a two-part question.
Yeah, well, Mac Jones is a guy that they really like here in the spring. They extended a verbal offer to him, and early on they wanted to try to take 2 quarterbacks in the class, if they could. So, sometimes you can get a big-time quarterback. In Alabama's case, Tua Tagovailoa commits. Kind of scares a lot of other quarterbacks away. Nobody's going to really consider it. They wanted to bring in some guys for this first summer camp, see who did really well, and possibly make a decision on taking another quarterback. And Mac Jones comes into Alabama's camp and does extremely well. He had a great spring, by the way. He went to 2 Rivals camp series during the spring in Orlando and also in Atlanta. He won the MVP at both of those camps, and there was a lot of very good talent at both of those camps in Orlando and Atlanta. Then goes to Alabama's camp and does extremely well. Worked out in just about every session with Tua Tagovailoa. And both those guys did extremely well at Alabama's camp. And they made an offer to him, said that if you want to commit, we will take your commitment. And he wasted little time in making that decision. So I think he's a very good quarterback. He played he performed at the Atlanta Rivals 5-Star Challenge this past weekend. Was one of the top overall quarterbacks there. He's got a little bit of swagger, a little bit of cockiness that you really like in quarterbacks. He's thin. He's 6'3". He looks like he's only about 170, 180 pounds. He's not really big. He reminds me so much of A.J. McCarron coming out of high school with that thin frame, but just kind of that cockiness out on the field that you really like in quarterbacks. He's got a really good arm. He's very accurate. He makes good decisions, and I think he's got a chance to be a really good quarterback at Alabama. And like you mentioned, are they worried about some other quarterbacks end up leaving? There's a lot of talent on Alabama's roster right now at the quarterback position, and we keep on waiting to see if possibly somebody ends up transferring. But it seems like it's still a pretty wide open race heading into the fall. So we'll see who ends up winning that job going into this season, and ends up maybe getting that #2 job. And we may end up seeing a transfer or even 2, come next spring. So that's something that I'm sure they are concerned about.
Andrew, have you been able to talk to Tagovailoa and get his thoughts on Alabama taking another quarterback, or have you heard? Is he good with this? He okay with this?
Yeah, I spoke with his father. I didn't get a chance to speak with Tua the other day with him traveling, and then I ended up being at the 5-Star Challenge. So I spoke with his father for a few minutes last week, and they seem very fine with it. And he said that they love competition. There's going to be competition everywhere you go, and Alabama coaches spoke with Tua, before even taking a commitment from Mac Jones, and said, "Hey, we're thinking about taking 2 quarterbacks in this class. I want to get your thoughts on it." And he was very supportive of that decision.
I want to ask you about the receiver that committed last night, because in this day and age, we know it's hard to fly under the radar, and he's not necessarily flying under the radar, but at 6'6", running a 4.3 electronically timed 40-yard dash at the Nike Opening Regionals, he seems to me, based on, and had a productive junior season, to be a little bit underrated, if that's possible. What do you think of this guy? And as much as Alabama's had some great receivers, they haven't had that 6'6", just throw it up and go get it guy. I mean, this kid looks like he's got the potential to be special. What do you think of him?
Yeah, he's certainly a specimen at that size. And certainly a big guy that Alabama hasn't recruited, been able to sign in the last several years. So I know that the coaching staff is extremely excited about landing his commitment. And he did go to the Nike Regionals. Hasn't been to a lot of other camps. Just kind of stayed under the radar. He is highly, I say highly rated. He's rated in the top 150 in the country on Rivals.com. And, he's probably got a good chance to move up even higher, throughout the year. But 6'6", 200 pounds, a guy that we haven't really talked about that much on the Alabama board. So, a lot of people know about some of these other top receiver targets like the Devontae Smith out of Louisiana, Jerry Jeudy out of Florida, Nico Collins out of Clay Chalkville, and Henry Ruggs out of Montgomery. Those have kind of been the four wide receiver names we've been talking about for several months now on TideSports.com, and now all of a sudden, Tyrell Shavers ends up visiting Tuscaloosa yesterday, and we finally start talking about him, and he commits to Alabama. So yeah, I mean, it's certainly a big commitment. I think Alabama's going to take 4 to 5 wide receivers in this class. So all those other targets that I just mentioned, they're still high on Alabama's recruiting radar, and guys that they certainly want to get. So the wide receiver was a big need in this class, and they certainly got a big weapon in Tyrell Shavers yesterday.
Andrew Bone, our guest. You can follow him on Twitter at Andrew J. Bone. Of course, keep up with him at TideSports.com and in the Tuscaloosa News. Follows recruiting and is all over it. I want to ask you about the Elliott Baker commitment, because I mean, you have to take the guy. I mean, I looked at the tape. Clearly, he's a must-take and a great prospect. But there's an in-state offensive tackle this year at Madison Academy in Austin Troxell, who will be a senior in high school and is a great-looking prospect. It looks like Alabama and Auburn may battle it out there. Does the Baker commitment affect him at all, or is Alabama still in good shape with Austin Troxell?
Well, it doesn't affect him in terms of Alabama's pursuit of him. Alabama still really wants Austin Troxell in this recruiting class. They also want Kendall Randolph, who's also up in Madison. Bob Jones. I keep saying Bob Jones. Bob Jones High School. I mean, they want both of those guys in this recruiting class, and they remain top targets for them. Kendall Randolph is going to actually be on campus either today or tomorrow. That's something I would really watch out for. With Alabama having 2 really big offensive line commitments right now, Elliott Baker and also Alex Leatherwood, who just won the offensive line MVP award at the Rivals 5-Star Challenge this week. And I think it's going to put a little bit of pressure on these other offensive linemen like Kendall Randolph, like Austin Troxell, to go ahead and make a decision. I think we could possibly see Kendall Randolph committing very soon. If not this week, I think he'll commit within the next few weeks. I think Austin Troxell is getting close to making the decision. And now Troxell went on a visit to Auburn for Big Cat Weekend. I know he had a really good time down there. So I think it's going to be an Auburn-Alabama battle for him. But I would really watch those 2 guys, Austin Troxell and Kendall Randolph, a lot in the next few weeks.
Andrew, I think 14 commitments already for Alabama by my count. Is there a concern that they're filling up too fast, and do they need to slow down a little bit? I mean, what's the approach? There's so many good players already committed, but so many good players still out there available. Do you expect this recent run of commitments to continue, or maybe they just slow it down just a little bit?
In previous years, I thought that they took some guys a little bit too soon. That they started taking guys just to maybe take some guys, felt like they got some under-the-radar guys. Come January, February, some of these guys end up, getting asked to gray shirt or end up flipping and going somewhere else. But, based on the guys that they're recruiting, based on the guys that are currently in the class, I think they're doing a really good job. I mean, I like all of the guys that are committed right now in Alabama class, guys that they really wanted, guys that they really targeted. And, led by the number 2 player in the country, who could possibly be the number 1 player in the country, Najee Harris, who was just unbelievable this past weekend in Atlanta at the 5-Star Challenge. I mean, he was just he is an impressive-looking player at 6'2". He's 225 pounds, and just he moves like he's 180 pounds. Just so smooth. And I know Alabama fans are really excited about him, and Alabama coaches are very excited about him. But I think they've got the right guys so far in the class. They're going to continue to do extremely well. I think, they've got several guys that they're going after, guys on the defensive line, guys at wide receiver, and even some guys at the defensive backfield. I think they've got a good chance to sign. I think they'll end up possibly once again with the number one recruiting class. They've got the number one class in the country right now, but clearly we're still in June, so we got a long way to go until next February. But I think as of right now, they've got a very good chance to finish with that number one recruiting class yet again. Wrapping
up with Andrew Bone from TideSports.com. You mentioned Najee Harris, and you're right, special player. Did visit Auburn. Went by and took a visit at Auburn. Is that a reason for concern for Alabama fans?
Yeah, I don't think it's much of a concern. If he ends up flipping and going somewhere else, I think he will stay on the West Coast. I can't see him end up going to another school in the Southeast or going to somewhere like Ohio State or Michigan. I think he ends up either, if not Alabama, it's going to be somewhere on the West Coast. I spoke with him at length the other day. There was me and 3 or 4 other reporters that were interviewing all at the same time. And you could just tell that he was glowing about Alabama. Obviously fresh off his visit to Tuscaloosa last week, just so high about Alabama, and just was really quiet on every other school. He just didn't say much. He thinks he's coming back to Tuscaloosa in July again. So I think he's really excited about his commitment, and he's also enrolling early. So the longer he goes without doing anything, the better it's going to be for Alabama.
And real quickly, Andrew, I want to ask you about a commitment. You mentioned him earlier, Alex Leatherwood. I've watched a little bit of video of this kid at some of these camps, and I guess the word for me is just nasty, and I mean that as a compliment. I mean, he just seems like he's got a mean streak, and I know this time last year he was kind of coming on, but you look at him now, I mean, this guy looks like he wants it bad.
Yeah. I mean, you want this guy to get off the bus first. I mean, he's a scary dude out there. I mean, 6'5". I mean, 320 pounds and just chiseled. And he has a mean streak like no offensive lineman I've seen in a while. I mean, he just wants to just punish you. He was fantastic at the 5-star challenge. He's top. I think he's number 51 overall in the country right now. That's going to shoot up all the way. I think he'll be a 5-star clearly in the next ranking. He may be the number one offensive tackle in the country. I mean, he was just awesome in Atlanta. I think he's a great competitor, and I know somebody that Alabama coaching staff's extremely excited about for the future.
All right, Andrew, we could go on and on with the way Alabama's putting together this class, but we got to wrap it up. Tell folks where they can keep up with all your recruiting info.
Yes, please follow us at tuscaloosa.youtube.com, which is home for the Alabama Crimson Tide on the Rivals.com network. Follow our work at Tuscaloosa News. You can also follow me on Twitter at Andrew J. Bone.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, Gary.